They say Alaska is beautiful, untouched, wild, and pure. But every untouched place carries shadows, and in the shadows you'll find stories that are as chilling as the ice that never melts. Imagine small towns hidden in the endless white, isolated quiet, with secrets whispered only by the wind. Now ask yourself, what would make an entire town walk away overnight? What could make a hunter vanish without a trace? Or make you see a child on the side of the road, only to realize their eyes are pitch black? This episode isn't about campfire legends. These are the real stories. Alaskans refuse to forget, the ones they still warn each other about in hushed voices. The ones that remind you how fragile our place in this world really is. So tonight, I'll walk you through 7 of the most disturbing, true small-town horror stories Alaska has ever known. Each one stranger, darker, and more unsettling than the last. And as you listen, think about this. Have you ever experienced something that made you question reality itself? Stay with me, because by the end of this episode you might. Portlock, Alaska. On a map, it looks like just another fishing village tucked away in the wilderness. But if you ask the locals, they'll tell you it's a place that was swallowed by something darker than loneliness. In the 1,940 seconds, entire families packed up and vanished, leaving behind their homes, their boats, and their lives. Why? Because hunters were returning in pieces or not at all. Survivors described massive human-like footprints near the torn-apart bodies. Not bare tracks, bigger, wider, heavy enough to sink deep into the frozen ground. The villagers whispered the name Nantinak, a creature that stalked them in silence, half spirit, half beast. Think Bigfoot, but angrier, hungrier, and with a taste for human prey. From a psychological view, it's easy to say fear spreads like wildfire in small communities. When one person disappears mysteriously, the story grows, mutates, and becomes bigger than the facts. That's how legends are born. But ask yourself, does mass fear explain the footprints, the shredded bodies? The silence that fell over Portlock when the last family fled? Today Portlock still stands empty, not because time forgot it, but because no one dares to return. Locals avoid even saying its name after dark, as if speaking it might invite the creature back. And here's the question that lingers. What if entire towns can vanish, not from time, not from progress, but from something waiting in the shadows, watching? It's late at night. A woman drives alone down an empty Alaskan road near Bethel. Snow is falling, the radio crackles, and then out of the dark she sees a child standing on the shoulder. Small, fragile, lost. She slows down, rolls the window just enough, and asks if he needs help. That's when she notices his eyes, not blue, not brown, but pure black, no whites, no pupils, just endless darkness staring back at her. Her heart pounds. Instinct takes over. She slams the gas and doesn't look back. Later, when she tells her story, she learns she isn't the only one. Others have seen these children too. They always appear vulnerable, asking for rides, for shelter, for permission to enter. And those who let them in? They say, bad things follow sickness, tragedy, even death. Psychologists might say it's the uncanny valley effect. When something looks human but isn't quite right, our brains scream danger. But that explanation doesn't cover the eerie consistency of these sightings across Alaska and even across the world. Entirely black eyes, always at night, always asking to be invited inside. Locals whisper that these children aren't human at all. Some call them omens, spirits hunting for a way back into our world. Others believe they're predators in disguise, using innocence as bait. And here's the part that sticks with you. Imagine being alone, headlights cutting through the dark, and a small hand reaches out. Would you stop? Or would you keep driving, wondering if you just left something unnatural behind you? Nome, Alaska, has always been a town on the edge of the wild, but some nights, what hangs in the sky feels even stranger than the land below. Locals talk about glowing orbs that hover above the tundra, blue, green, sometimes blinding white. They don't move like planes. They dart, stop suddenly, vanish in a blink. Dogs whimper, people grow nauseous. And when the lights leave, some residents claim they've lost hours, with no memory of where that time went. Disappearances in Nome aren't rare. Some blame the unforgiving landscape, snowstorms, rivers, the cold itself. But others whisper a different explanation: abductions. They say the lights aren't just strange weather, they're ships and the missing people taken. From a psychological perspective, our brains hate gaps in memory. When we can't explain missing time, we fill it with stories. Alien encounters often fit that need. But here's the unsettling detail. Too many Nome residents tell the same story. Bright lights, a sudden blackout in memory. The uneasy feeling that something or someone was watching. The government wrote reports blaming alcohol, isolation, and harsh winters. Logical, safe. But that doesn't explain why people still wake up in the snow outside town with hours missing, confused and terrified. So the question is, are these just stories born of darkness and ice? Or is Nome one of those rare places where the sky itself reaches down and takes what it wants? In the frozen north of Barrow, survival has always been a thin line. Food runs out, the cold never lets up, and when desperation grows, darker stories start to take shape. One hunter, they say, began acting strangely unable to sleep, jittery, whispering that something was following him. His appetite grew wild, but no matter how much he ate, he was never full. Then, one night, he disappeared into the wilderness. Days later, searchers found his camp destroyed. Bones scattered, not animal bones but human, gnawed clean. Elders shook their heads and said the word no one wanted to hear: Wendigo. A spirit of endless hunger, said to possess those who give in to greed and cannibalism. Once taken, there's no going back. Science would explain it differently. Insomnia, paranoia, and hunger can break the human mind. Hallucinations, psychosis. In the Arctic, the line between sanity and madness is paper thin. But even psychology can't explain the unease locals feel when they talk about that hunter. His story isn't just about one man. It's a warning. When you take more than you need, something takes you in return. To this day, people in Barrow whisper that the Wendigo still roams the tundra, searching for its next host. And the question that lingers is this: out there in the endless dark, what's stronger, your will to survive, or the hunger waiting to consume you? On the edge of Juneau, hidden by trees and fog, sits the ruins of an asylum long abandoned. Locals say it should have been torn down decades ago, but something keeps it standing, as if the walls themselves refuse to die. Anyone brave or foolish enough to go inside tells the same story. Footsteps echoing down empty hallways, doors slamming when no wind is blowing, and the faint sound of screams bleeding through the walls. One group of explorers went in with cameras. They laughed at the rumors until they captured a photo of a pale, hollow face staring out from a second-floor window. The problem? The asylum was empty. No footprints, no broken glass, just that face watching. Psychology might argue it's suggestion at work. When you walk into a place you expect to be haunted, your senses sharpen. The creak of a floorboard becomes footsteps. A gust of air feels like breath on your neck. But even skeptics admit the asylum in Juneau has an energy that's hard to ignore. Locals avoid the building. They say the patients who suffered there never really left, their pain soaked into the walls. And maybe that's the truth. Some places don't just hold memories, they hold the people who can't let go. So, imagine walking those halls at night. Every step louder than the last, every shadow reaching toward you. The real question is, would you make it to the exit before something made you stay forever? Fishermen in Sitka tell a story that never seems to fade. It begins the same way every time. A woman appears on the shoreline, shivering, asking for help. Her voice is soft, her eyes pleading, and just when a man reaches out to guide her to safety, she changes. Some say she turns into a fox, darting into the trees. Others swear she twists into a monstrous creature with claws and teeth glinting in the moonlight. And then she vanishes, pulling her victim with her into the water, never to be seen again. The elders call her a Takriaksuk, a shapeshifter, a being that feeds not on flesh, but on souls. They warn men not to follow strange women who appear at night, because what seems like mercy is really a trap. From a psychological perspective, shapeshifter legends often represent mistrust of appearances. We judge faces, we trust smiles, but deep down, our brains know something can look perfectly human and still be dangerous. That fear isn't just folklore, it's survival instinct. Sitka's fishermen still keep their distance when they hear voices along the shore. Too many stories of men who chased shadows and never came back. Was it drowning, the ocean's pull? Or something older, darker, wearing the shape of what they wanted to see most? And that's the thought that stays with you. If someone called to you in the dark, sounding helpless and kind, would you help them? Or would you wonder what was really standing there in the mist? Deep in the woods outside Talkeetna, hunters once stumbled upon something that shouldn't exist. An old trapper, standing upright, his body frozen solid, not lying in the snow, standing like a statue. His eyes were wide open, locked in a look of pure terror, his mouth twisted in a silent scream. They carried him back to town, expecting him to thaw. But no matter where they put him by fire, in heated rooms, the body never melted. Days passed, weeks, still frozen. The townsfolk whispered he was cursed, that he had seen something in the forest so horrifying it trapped him between life and death. Science can explain freezing, extreme cold preserves, but not like this. Not when fire and warmth don't change a thing. Some doctors said it was a trick of rigor mortis, or a rare chemical reaction in the body. Logical words. But they didn't calm the fear that spread through Talkeetna. To this day, some say the trapper is still out there guarding the woods, watching. A man turned into a warning, frozen as a permanent reminder that Alaska doesn't forgive curiosity. So next time you walk through the forest and feel the air turn suddenly colder, ask yourself, is it just the wind? Or is the frozen man still standing somewhere in the dark, eyes locked on you? Alaska isn't just snow and silence. It's a land where entire towns vanish, where children with empty black eyes knock on your window, where the sky itself can steal hours from your life. From wendigos to shapeshifters, from haunted asylums to frozen men who never thaw, these stories remind us that fear doesn't just live in books. It hides in places we can point to on a map. Maybe some of these tales can be explained away by science, psychology, or the human mind's love for mystery. But others, they refuse to be solved, and that's what makes them linger. Because the scariest part of these stories isn't the monsters themselves, it's the possibility that they're real. So I'll leave you with this. Do you really believe you know everything about the world around you? Or is there more hidden in the dark, waiting to be discovered? If this episode gave you chills, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And tell us, have you ever had a terrifying encounter, maybe something you still can't explain? Share your story with us. Who knows, it might become part of a future episode. Remember, not everything you see can be trusted, and not every shadow is empty.